Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Experts Talk with Himansha. Today's episode will be on real estate investment in Germany. Today, we have a special guest, Anul Gur, who owns a company, Investree, and he's also a professional conductor. He has inspected more than 500 properties in Germany in different states, and he has also an experience of 2000 plus consulting hours. So, if you are interested in real estate investment, this would be more beneficial with some practical insights. So, welcome, Anshul. Would you like to give us more insights about Investree?
Good. Thank you for having me. So, my journey started in real estate back in 2013, and it was very common to have problems, and I could not find answers anywhere at that time. English was a big problem. Nobody spoke English. Today, things are different. Uh, Maklers or agents in between were not helping enough to or giving me that transparency, and financier, the whole interest of financier was to sell the loans. So basically, there was nobody on the buyer side to guide through the deal. And with Investree, this was my idea to do hand holding for new investors and do not go through the pain, do not make any bad decisions in terms of investment in real estate. This is a thing. Real estate stays with you for over 10 years, 20 years. People do mistake, but it can be avoided if you have an expert on your side. So again, with Investree, what we do is we help you in financing, we help you identify right objects, help you at Notary, and help you also find the right tenants.
Okay. And why just to invest in real estate? Why not the other investment options?
We have all read or heard the story of a hen which gives a golden egg once in a day. So I always say this is not a story, this is a truth. In real estate, your object is that hen that gives you a golden egg. First day of the month. First day of the month, I have my rent in my account. Getting into details, so universally, there are only 5 asset classes where one can invest your money. There is real estate, there is property, there is gold, stock market, and now the digital currency, bitcoins, and so on. No other asset class starts generating return for you from day one. In real estate, you get your returns the day you hand over the key to your tenant. So practically from day one, your asset starts making money for you. Stocks, it may go up, it might not go up, not surety. Bitcoin, same, no surety. Gold, yes, we have some statistical data, it has gone up, but there is no surety. In real estate, I have that 99% surety that I'm getting my rent on first day. Second reason why I invest in real estate is the leverage that I get in real estate. Let's say you have 100 euros and you want to buy gold. So for 100 euros, you get the gold worth 100 euros. For 100 euros, you get a stock of company worth 100 euros. With 100 euros, I can buy actually a property worth 1000 euros or even 1500 euros. So there is a factor 10x, 15x leverage that I get in real estate. I have less money, but I still get something which has much higher value. Third reason, the best part is this leverage is financed by a bank. You do not even need to have that money. And last, why I love real estate is somebody else pays for it. You don't even have to pay it back to the bank. So my tenant pays back for all my assets back to the bank. So you have surety, you are getting rent first of the month, as long as you live, as long as you hold the property. Second, you have leverage. And third, somebody else pays for it.
Okay, as you have said, like somebody else pays for it. Does like investment has some hidden charges, or is it like profitable from day one? Like we have to go to finance, we should have some Eigenkapital, or if it's an old house, it requires some maintenance or things like that.
So there are no hidden charges. The process is quite transparent. But yes, if you have the experience or the skills, over over the time, over 10-15 years, you hold the property, there might be some expenses that can come, and this is where my skills also sometimes come into picture. I can estimate, I can see what work does this property need over the time. But there is no hidden things in Germany. It's all very
Okay.
transparent, I would say.
Okay. And is there also like a good time to buy, like seeing the market trend? Is like interest are going up or down, like when we should invest or when one should start looking into?
See, in real estate, there's never a good time. When we look in the past, we always say, oh, if I would have bought then, right? So actually, we have to also see from two perspectives. Are you an investor or are you buying for yourself? If you are an investor, there are few criterias, and if you meet that criteria, even today is a good time. For example, criteria could be cash flow. That's how I decide. If I'm buying a property and completely it is paid by my tenant or to large extent, I don't care what interest rate is. I actually get tax benefit on that interest rate. So if it is an investment, it's a good time.
Okay. So for investment, one should like go for an apartment or an house. Is there a difference? Like which one is considered as a good investment?
A good investor always goes by ROI, return on invest. He doesn't go by apartment or a house. So if you invest 100 euros and you can get back 150, I would go for that option. Usually, still to limit my risk and to limit my credit, because taking credit also has certain limitations. You cannot take millions of euros in credit. It depends on your credit score and all that stuff. To limit risk and to remain in my credit limits, I go for apartments. And house, of course, has other expenses which are generally higher than apartments. You have to manage everything by yourself. In apartment, I have a Hausverwaltung who can do all the management. I personally go for apartments. But a single KPI rule as an investor is look for return on investment. If it is 6-7%, doesn't matter what it is. Or if it is even more, 10%, but it's a house, I will go for a house.
Okay. And how does this, like we talk a lot about on a tenant, how this tenant life goes? Like basically what I want to know, I have bought a property now, and later if I'm struggling to find a tenant, is there a good demand and supply in market?
So see, actually there is a huge supply demand gap in Germany overall. We are missing about 1 million apartments in Germany. So close to 1 million families don't have a place to live. It depends a little bit on the demography. In smaller cities and villages, you might have problems to find tenants, or you might have problems to find good tenants. In bigger cities, in class B cities, so Munich, Stuttgart, Frankfurt, or Nuremberg, Mannheim, this is not a problem. Why? There are two reasons. Generally, these cities have universities, so there are a lot of students who rent these apartments, and these cities have a lot of companies. So your customer base becomes quite big. You have families, you have Indians, you have expats, you have students.
So as we talk about the tenant or the location, if you are in a place where there are universities or big companies associated, then I think finding a tenant is not a problem. So it can be a good decision to invest. So how we should see whether we should invest in an old house or a new construction? Is there any difference?
So see, it is just like buying a car. If I buy a new construction and it gives me more rent, of course, I will go for a new construction. But that is not the case in Germany. So the difference in rent, what you can expect if it is a new construction, it's maybe hardly 100 or 200 euros. So I do not buy new construction. Just like car, I will have 500,000 invest in a new construction, but I will get the same rent, 1,200, 1,500 euros. On the other hand, if I buy an old construction, which is 200,000, 300,000, I will still get 1,500 euros. As an investor, once again, As an investor, you should only focus on your ROI, and your ROI goes up when your buying cost is low. So keep your buying cost low. As an investor, you should only go for old construction.
Old construction. Okay, but then how to rectify whether this is a good investment or not? Say for example, I bought a house and then everything looks good to me if it is newly painted or the flooring is fine, but later there are some pipe blockages or there is some water leakage or something after some months. Like, how to identify whether it's a good investment or not?
This is one thing which a lot of Indian investors actually do this mistake in market. They go on the optics of the property and don't look at what is inside the papers, what are expected costs that might come up, renovations, and having a full overview of the cost over next 10 years, what might come up and so on. And this is what basically a good skilled buyer will always have. They look at the heart of the property. Is it financially sound? Will I have problems finding a tenant here? Will I get enough students? Will I get above market rent here? Yes or no? So overall, again, sometimes it makes sense to have a gutachter on your side who can judge the property better if you are missing on that skill. But if you have bought 2, 3, 4 properties, I assume you are skilled enough to look for these KPIs.
Okay, so maybe that first one you need to be a little cautious to see, and good actor is also one of the good option to inspect your property whether it's a good investment.
Not just inspection. A lot of times, what I also see, Indians leave a lot of money on the table. In the sense, they don't negotiate enough. Although we are quite good in negotiations, but generally maybe because of the language, because of cultural misunderstanding, we leave a lot of money on the table. For an apartment worth 600,000 euros, we got a discount of 90,000 euros just because there was not enough sunlight in the house. Now, how do you know that? I look at it from the perspective how fast you can sell an apartment, and will a German buy this apartment or not? Because when you will go to sell this apartment or object, 95% of the people, of the buyers, are Germans. So in this case, a German buying an apartment which does not have enough sunlight, it's an absolute no-go. Come on, they changed their country just because they are not getting enough sunlight here. Why would they buy such an apartment? And the makler knew about this, but he did not mention about this. When I did the Gutachten, the first thing we said, there's no sunlight. And then he got on the back foot and we negotiated over 1.5 months and finally reduced the price by 90,000 euro. So it is not, a lot of times it is not just about if the house is good or not. There are different aspects. Is the building good or not? Is the apartment good or not? Is the neighborhood good or not? Is the price according to the market, yes or no? Will I be able to sell it? What about the noise around the house? So there are many variables which, again, if you have experience, if you have skills, you can figure out by yourself. But generally, a new investor, an amateur, it's hard to find.
It was good to know that, yes, that negotiation is possible in Germany, because I'm sure that most of the people are not aware of it. Like, as I talk about myself, when we were looking for new projects, I always considered, okay, this is a fixed price and cannot be negotiated. This is good to know. And as you said, that other factors also to be considered, like noise around, sunlight, and so on. Should someone also look into, like, say, if someone is living in Erlangen, should they go for investment property in nearby, or is it fine to invest in other places where we know there is a more demand than this area?
That's a good question. That this often comes to me, that I'm finding this property in Mannheim or in Nuremberg. Shall I invest in it? So again, one, look for ROI. If you are getting 6% return, which is hard to get, generally for me it's a no-brainer. I just put my money there. It also depends a little bit on your situation. Let's say you want to manage the property by yourself. Then, of course, living in Erlangen and having a property in Düsseldorf doesn't make sense. For showing it to the tenant, you will have to travel. By every tenant change, you will have to travel. For every small work, you will have to travel. It is impractical. If you have kids, even more impractical. So it depends a little bit on your situation. As an investor, I usually do not care where the property is as long as it is giving me good returns. Again, as an investor, we have to keep emotions aside and look at numbers. If the numbers are good and I can manage it, I don't care where the property is.
Okay. So as you said, like it gives good return. It's preferable to have it nearby if you have to manage it, but is also good to have it far if you are getting good returns.
I can give you an example.
Yes.
I have properties in Essen. I have properties in Nuremberg, in Munich, and generally, for example, the one in Essen, I don't go there for years. So your property is good, meaning it doesn't bring you too much of an effort in operations maintenance, and your tenant is good. I go there once in 3 years, 5 years, sometimes even just to show my face that I am alive and
Okay.
tenant is aware. Yeah.
Yes. And say, like people who are just doing it as a side investment, like me, I'm a full-time working professional and I do not have time for all this maintenance if tenant is moving out or is there any repairs needed. Is it also possible to outsource the maintenance of your apartment, say, and the tenant?
Yes, but it becomes very expensive in Germany. So the maintenance company takes almost 2-3 months rent to maintain it, and at the end of the day, they will still send you all the invoices. So you are still paying for everything. What they do is, of course, look after your tenants. That they will search tenants for you, or if there's a tenant change or anything where somebody has to be on the site, they will have the presence. There is something new happening in the market. There are a lot of companies who are now selling with end-to-end service. So they have their apartments, they will sell it to you, they will finance it for you, and they also manage it for you for a reasonable fee, usually around 60 to 100 euros, somewhere like this per month. As a buyer, you should be a little bit careful. These are sometimes good properties, but the prices are inflated. So they are, in my experience, even sometimes 40%, 50% inflated prices. If you are getting it for a good price, why not?
Okay, then how to find a property? Like, is it good for me? Say I started my search today. So I will browse some websites like Emo Scout or others. But how to, streamline my research that, okay, this is a good property. What all things I should know before, like some websites which can help me to search? Or is it a financial advisor who can tell me like up to what amount I can mortgage it? Or anything else?
So in the whole process, I think the first thing you should be very clear is what you can afford. You have to figure this out, because very often I have seen people start looking for objects. Even to visit an object, for example, in Munich costs me half a day. And I've seen 10, 15 different objects, and then we go and talk to financier. Hey, I have identified something. Now, is financing possible? And it's a shame if you then figure out this is not in my budget. So always check with your financier first, what is your limit up to how much you can afford. Now, what is a good property? There are some golden rules, and they are universal. All over the world, we go by the same rules. You should always go for lage, meaning location, location, location. What is a good location? How I identify it: within 500-meter radius. If I have a school, if I have a tram, U-Bahn, some supermarkets, I'm fine with it. I have a checkbox in terms of location. Then you have to go a little bit in detail. Depends in which city you are buying. Do you want to rent it to students or to families or to expats or to young couples? For every different customer, you have a different property. For example, if you want to rent it to students, you want to have 3 separate rooms in the property. If you want to rent it to a young family, maybe 2 rooms are enough. If you want to rent it to a family with kids, you need 3-room property, maybe on ground floor. Noise should not be an issue for the neighbors. For a young family with a small kid, maybe a garden. So you need to know your customers very well. You need to know which city you are buying, and you need to know also financial aspect, how much you can afford, and what is again my ROI. Do I put money in this property from my pocket every month, or is it paid one to one by my tenant? Once you check all these three macro parameters, then you of course look into micro parameters. There are a couple of other variables, but if you are done with these three macro parameters, more or less, you will not make a mistake.
Okay. I mean, I do have some question in my mind. Maybe I will try to ask with an example. I was looking out for an investment apartment, and when I visited, because in the first go, I cannot hire a good actor, I cannot work with some company because it will definitely cost me some money. So I want to first see, and then I just saw 10 apartments in that particular area. Okay, they are from 300 to 450 in the range. Now I know this is a right range to buy an investment apartment. I visited an apartment, it was looking superb, new tiles, flooring, they have changed the windows, and the price was like 450, and I was convinced, and the seller is ready to reduce the cost as well for some like 50,000 euros. But when I visited my bank said, I was lucky in this case, bank said, okay, this property does not worth this much amount. Maybe you are impressed with all the changes or the maintenance done. And I also asked, in coming 5 years, there are no cost which is needed for the building maintenance, because it was a multi-story building. But they said, for like I am eligible for a higher amount of loan, but this property according to them is not more than 275k. So which just rings a bell to my mind, that how to identify, because in internet, according to me, any property ranging from 350 to 450 is a good price.
So see, just like in India, banks here also have a different pricing model. And they are generally far behind the market price. So if the market price is 350, 99.9% bank will always evaluate it less, usually around 300 or 270, what you are saying.
Okay.
So if a bank is saying has a value of 275, it does not mean the property is bad. And this also does not mean bank is not ready to finance it. What bank is saying, I can only give you 225. The rest of the money you have to bring it from your pocket, what we call as Eigenkapital. So in my experience, 13 years, having looked into hundreds, thousands of properties, bank always evaluate less. And again, now comes your skills, your financial understanding into a picture as an investor, as a buyer. If you think your ROI is sufficient, you can manage to pay back to the bank from the rent, or you understand fully your cash flows, if it is minus 100, minus 200 euros and you can afford it, go for it. Rather than making judgment based on the opinion of the bank, you should go by your hunch.
So is there also something one should keep in mind, like how much Eigenkapital should be given for an investment property? Like now, if taking this particular example, if that property is say 400k and bank is ready to give only 275, then rest of the amount, which is more than 100k, has to be invested. So is it a good investment or not? How you evaluate it?
The beauty of real estate is that it is a game of debt. You should not invest as far as possible your money if it is an investment property. All my properties are financed 100%, even 110%. I don't put a single penny on my investments, and rather my tenant pays to the bank for this investment. So as an investor, you should try not to invest too much of your Eigenkapital. Why is this the case? You can always argue, yeah, but if I put my money, I will get better interest rates. Again, now comes financial engineering into picture. How much better interest rate would you get? 0.2% better, maybe 0.5% better. But if you can use that 30,000, 40,000 Eigenkapital and put it in gold, or even the worst performing ETFs in Germany are giving you 12-15% return. Would you go for that 0.5% or would you go for the 15% return and rather take that 15% gain and pay off to the bank every second year? So you have to look in terms of the business case, in terms of numbers, and as far as possible, invest the lowest amount of Eigenkapital.
And how to find these properties where banks are ready to give, 100% or 110%?
Banks are always ready to give you 100%. It is not depending generally on property. It is generally depending on your credit score. It is generally depending how sound you are financially in terms of your savings, assets, and so on. Generally, for us Indians, 100% is not a problem. We all Indians are we are amongst the top 1% income generating people in this country, highest taxpayers in this country. Banks are happy to have us as the customer. So generally 100% financing for Indians is not a problem.
Okay. So just going back to Investree, like as you said, you are doing a hand holding from start when you start searching for an investment or to buy a property. Maybe can you brief us, like if someone is really looking into a real estate investment, how do you guide them or support them from the start?
I would like to start with an example here. The first property that I bought back in Essen, 2-room apartment, 100,000 price. I did a couple of mistakes, but these mistakes I realized when I went 10 years later in the market to sell this property. I bought this property without balcony. Now, as I said earlier, the buyer in the market is a German. He is not an unknown person in the market. He knows exactly what he needs. A German will never buy a property without a balcony. It took me 1.5 years, and finally I have to go down with the price. Otherwise, I was not able to sell this property. And these are the problems which a makler or a financier never tells you about. He will not say this is a bad property, but there is no balcony. What I was missing was I had nobody on my side to guide me if it is the right property, if the price is right, does the cash flow work, somebody who looked into the documents and checked everything is fine, somebody who read the notary contract. That's my why I started Investree. I wanted to be the someone who is on the buyer side and do hand holding from the very start, looking for the right property, which means having low operations, having low maintenance, finding out the right tenants, doing the financing, looking into the documents of the property, looking into the notary contracts, negotiating with maklers, and finally saving thousands of euro for my customers. On an average, my clients are saving above 30,000-40,000 euros on every deal, because we come with a logic of a pricing. It's not just let's make 5% discount, let's make 10% discount. This doesn't work in market. A makler generally will say, F off, why should I give you 10% discount? But if you come with a logic, this is the market price, this is the work needs to be done in the property, this is the effort, whatever, and then you negotiate, it 99% of the time works.
Okay, and how this consulting goes? Like, say now I am a customer, I'm with you to invest, and you invest your energy, time in reviewing documents with me, and after seeing 10 properties, if say I'm not interested to pursue further, so how does your model of consulting or charging works?
So, of course, the first 15-20 minutes is always free, where I try to understand the financial situation of the client, where they are heading, what they do want to buy. And a lot of times within first 20-30 minutes, clarity comes either to me or to the customer, most of the times to the customer. And they leave disappointed, unfortunately, because either they are looking at the wrong property. Very recently, a client of mine from Munich looking at a single family house with swimming pool, 800 square meter area somewhere in a village around Landsberg. This is not the right property for a young couple. They are paying high, they are socially cut off in this small village and so on. So just an example. So generally after 30 minutes call, they are very clear, okay, this is not the right property. Maybe we have to look for something smaller in a city or whatever. And then after that, there are different models how I work together. It can be pro bono. So I do hourly consulting. They have checked the property somewhere in Düsseldorf, Hamburg. Of course, I also cannot travel. I can look into documents for a fixed transparent fee, which is also mentioned on my website. If after selecting they want to have a second opinion, they can call me as a professional Gutachter to come and visit the property. That is also I usually do for a fixed fee. I try to keep my pricing as transparent as possible. My prices are on my website published. So there are different models, but the most common one is once you have identified the property, then only makes sense, because of course it costs money, to call me for Gutachten. Let me have the look in the property, let me have the look into the documents, and then we go and talk about the price with the makler.
So thanks, Anshul, for taking us into the detailed process of like how Investree is helping people in Germany, and especially the expats in Germany, to do their investment. I still have like few questions in my mind, like if someone say I'm starting today and I do not have set up my mind, I don't have a problem paying to a professional, it's always good, but in start I don't want to invest. So do you suggest any platforms where one should start searching for an investment property?
Definitely. So Immobilien Scout is the biggest platform in Germany, and I would say 75-80% of the properties that come in the market are on that platform. So you can always start with, if it comes to platform, Immobilien Scout. What sometimes people overlook is actually eBay. You find really good offers on eBay from private people. So you can actually avoid paying makler fee, because to put up your ad on Immobilien Scout as a seller, I have to pay something to Immobilien Scout. But on eBay, it's free. So a lot of Germans try to save money and put up their offers on eBay. So eBay is actually also a very popular platform these days. Newspaper is also very popular. Old German people, they don't know computer, they don't know internet, so they are not comfortable, and then they get emails, they cannot follow up, and many problems. So they prefer to write their number, put up a small ad in newspaper. So try to see the Sunday newspaper as well. There also you get decently priced properties. That is about platform, and more important is actually you should know what you want to buy, what you are looking at, and that is also a little bit of small process. First, you need to figure out what you can afford, and then what do you want? Is it a one-room apartment? Is it a two-room apartment, three-room apartment? That depends then on your customer types. Do you want to rent it to an expat coming here on a project for 6 months? Maybe 30 meters square is enough. Do you want to rent it to students? Then you need 2-3 room apartment. Or if you're looking for families, higher rent class, then of course 70-80 square meters. So your requirement should be a little bit of, you should have clarity on your money as well. And lastly, I would say, just start making appointments and go and see the apartments. Most of the time, by the time you look 7th, 8th, 10th apartment, you will learn a lot of things in the process. You will have much more clarity what you need, and you will exactly know what kind of questions you have to ask to the makler or to the financier. So give some time to the process, and if during the process you also need help of a professional, of course it's paid, but yes, that can cut short your whole journey.
Correct. I think it will help someone to really get that confidence. Yes, we are going ahead. It's good. Exactly. And it's good to know that eBay is also something where we can find a property, because I never assumed it more than a second-hand goods. Right. So it was good. I have like one more doubt in my mind, like being an expat, we are not so good with German as a language. So, going for this investment, you have to do a lot of paperwork and things like that. Is it a limitation for buying or investing in Germany?
To some extent, yes. So if you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I started, definitely it was a big problem. I mean, a makler, if you write in English, I would not even get a reply. Even today, if you write in English, generally the response rate is quite low. But with the help of AI, with all the translation tools and all that stuff, you can get through the process. Language, in terms of looking at the documents, is sometimes difficult because the translation that you get uh, is not the real meaning what it is written in the contract. The real meaning is lost in the translation. It is definitely recommended to get it read from a friend, from a German colleague, or professional help. Reading the documents on contracts, don't underestimate the power when it comes to negotiation, because a lot of things are actually mentioned in the documents as well.
Okay, and there where your expertise get in.
I might help.
Yes.
I might be able to help there as well. Of course, I do it, but it is no rocket science. You can also get help from family, friends, and so on.
So thank you, Anshul. Thank you so much for coming and sharing such meaningful insights with our audience. Thank you so much. Do you have any feedback for us or for our podcast?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here on this podcast as well. I think this is a wonderful initiative. We have a lot of experts amongst our community as well, career coaches, financial consultants, real estate consultants, and this gives platform to everybody actually to come up and present ourselves in the community as well. And this is the first time actually I saw somebody, you as well as an entrepreneur, doing something new in such a new space. Social media is the way to market services, products. We are seeing it even today, and more it will be uh, happening more, marketing over social media. So I think it's an excellent initiative, and the first one. So all the best, and I look forward for more time and more such interesting podcasts.
Thank you so much.